Welcome back to day 18 of our chess journey to 1500 ELO on chess.com. Let's jump on into our game again and see who our opponent's going to be today. So today we have an 1199 rated player from Greece, right? Yeah, Mike the Curly. We will go with our usual 1d4 opening and we will go ahead and see what they play. I don't think we faced the Scandinavian yet, and I'm not really sure as to the theory there. So I might have to look into that in my spare time. If this move is played, I think we play up here and look for an A4, for example, depending on whether they defend their pawn or not. They move their knight, and I think recently we looked at this very same position, and this is the critical move here. If they capture, we grab the center and get tempo here, and if they go like this after we capture here, then we go out with our knight hitting their queen and gaining tempo on our development. As long as they don't defend their pawn here with a pawn in the queen's gambit, then we can capture theirs and get a good position. If I remember correctly here, I think we should be plus 0.5 or something. So I'm quite optimistic here, but this of course weakens our otherwise strong pawn chain here. So here I think we'll go on ahead and play pretty normal developmental moves. We can't really bully this knight anymore. And I think we might want to look for a castling maneuver soon. If this pawn gets hit, I think we bring our other knight up, and then we'll look for a bishop movement perhaps. I think the main difference here from a normal position, or from the kind of position we typically get in the queen's gambit, is we can't really fianchetto this bishop easily because this pawn blocks it. Here we can't just kick this back because this would lose a pawn. So we'll go on ahead and develop here. So if they capture here, we still have our defense of this pawn. Now we prepare castling as well. And we'll go on ahead and see what our opponent plays. They might go like this, they might push this pawn up, or they might target our pawn in the center. What happens if they play here? We might even be able to push this pawn, I think. Or we could play our bishop out like this. I think I like this a bit, but I'm not sure as to what the best move here would be. They play this pawn up, looking to develop their bishop and castle. This also threatens this check here, but then we just block, and I think we should be good. So here we have to make a decision, I think. Do we kick the bishop back first, or do we castle? I can't really find any fault with kicking this bishop first, so we'll just go on ahead and do that first, and then we'll go on ahead and castle. This is basically a free tempo in my book, getting some space for our king later on, so we could avoid any back rank issues. It does, however, create a weakness here, but I think that should be fine. It's a very slight weakness. This move was expected, and I think we'll go on ahead and block as we plan to, keeping our bishop here, and then we might look for an A3 afterwards. If this knight wasn't here, we might have been able to play this. This would be followed by this, and then we could hit them in the center here and dislodging their defense. But we can't really target this knight, so they would have to make that mistake on their own. But we'll just make sure we make it a mental note to ourselves. Here I think we could just go on ahead and push this bishop a bit and then castle afterwards. Let's take a look at this. Either they help us defend our center, or they trap their own bishop, or alternatively they just have to go back, which I think is good for us. So we'll play this move here first. They capture, and I think we are very happy with this development here, because this pawn was a weakness for us, and now we got it defended. We have to be aware of those ideas here, jumping in. This, for example, this move could be annoying, targeting this pawn, but I think we could just either move our queen up or move our bishop. This move, I think, I thought this move was more annoying to play against because they could jump in here or here, but they might have a maneuver in this direction as well. Either way, we will go on ahead and castle, I think. And let's proceed to see what our opponent does. I think I'm a bit happy here because we have the bishop here, and as long as the position opens up a bit more, which I'm expecting it to do, then our bishop should probably do a bit of heavy lifting here. We should also try to utilize this open file here, or half open file at least, and get a rook here, or maybe two. And we need to find a home for our bishop here. We do have this isolated pawn over here, which might be awkward in the long term, but currently it's well defended, so I'm not super worried. So where would the optimal squares for our pieces be? It's a bit awkward getting our bishops into super good positions right now, I think, because of our pawns in the center, but at the same time they restrict our opponent a lot as well. I think this bishop here might either be best on a diagonal looking like this upwards, or maybe down here on A2 looking here, along this diagonal in the long term, but we'll have to see. As for our dark squared bishop, I'm not super happy with its positioning, but I would have liked to say this square and then being able to push here and get a stronger center. Well, after this, but the problem is currently this square is powerful for our opponent. So we might be looking for a move like this, enabling our push here, but our opponent decides to strike in the center. So here I'm actually looking at this move, as it would threaten to win a pawn immediately. And if they capture here, I think we just capture like this, and then use the two open files here for our rooks. Now, do we have any other ideas here? This pawn is undefended, so we could look for this, but it doesn't really do anything immediately. They would just defend it. This helps us develop and defend at the same time, which I'm liking, but it would perhaps be met by this move. So how about this move here, which takes away this square from our opponent? Or it wouldn't really do so if they push, but then we might try to force a passed pawn of our own here. The annoying thing with moving this bishop is we don't really develop this bishop yet. But this here, this square here seems a bit too awkward to not deal with, so we might just move back first. We'll try to look at this after the game and see what the critical approach would have been here. It might have even been this push here, which, looking in hindsight, I think I might have liked a bit more. But they might have had this move, denying us from any opportunities for connecting our pawns in the middle. And then this pawn right here would have been a weakness, perhaps. So our opponent still has this move, or never mind, this gets taken. So that move should be fine for now. This push, it might just be an overextension if they go for it. This might have been a bad move, as it disallows us from threatening this diagonal. Our bishop might have been on a good diagonal, as it hits both of those pieces here, but we'll have to look in hindsight and analyze afterwards. So Mike the curly here, what would their plan be? This doesn't work, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, so this knight's probably not moving. What happens if they play this move? Well, it's a bit tricky unless we play this, which gives us a passed pawn. So this doesn't really help them. Could they move their queen, perhaps? Well, they could try to get active like this. In which case, we might play this move, which would develop our queen and defend at the same time. Alternatively, our opponent could look to include their rooks in their attack. But I'm curious as to whether they have any short-term threats. This move, for example. They go for this move, which is a pretty good move, because after this they get an open file for their rook. And now I'm curious, do we have this move? The thing is, it allows their knight to start jumping in, which I'm not super happy with. But let's take a look at this. What happens if they capture here and now? I think we go like this. And I'm not really fond of looking at this 2-on-1 position on the queen side. So we might not do that just yet. But I don't think they could easily convert this into a passed pawn as of yet. So I think we will indeed go ahead and develop our bishop, and if they capture, we will recapture like this. And now I think our bishops are starting to come alive. They're already threatening a lot of squares here and covering a lot of the board. This knight still can't jump in anywhere, and this knight doesn't have this square. It might try to jump in like this and hitting our pawn, but we might just connect our pawns here. After this and this, our opponent could try to jump in with their rook. They could try to move like this and then try to threaten our pawn in another way, like this. But I think, as I mentioned, we might just go for this f3 move if they sorry, if they try to threaten our pawn there. It would kill this mini diagonal here for our bishop, but it would make our pawn structure a bit more solid. While they capture, we will go on ahead and do the same. I think this capture was basically forced because otherwise we would have had a pretty bad weakness here. Alternatively, this might have been a strong position for our bishop, but it would force our bishop to stay in place and it would be targeted by knights, etc. This move is available to our opponent now because they have their rook here. So they could try to take our bishop pair away. It would also open up this pawn and allow for them to try pushing here. They jump this pawn into the game. This rook rather. Knight. The knight. Is this a move? I don't necessarily think so. I think we'll go ahead and play this as we mentioned. And now this knight is in an awkward spot, I think, because all of its jumps here are kind of blunted. This doesn't quite work, I think. Well, it might try to look for this move, in which case we might pull our bishop back if they go here. And eventually I think we might want to open up here for our bishop. I think we want to connect our rook soon. They go for this move, which means we either go for this or give up the bishop here probably. We could play like this. What happens if they capture? Then we threaten this, hitting the rook and the pawn. But if they go back, it's defended. This is an option, as I mentioned. I think this would allow them to double up here, which would be a bit awkward. So we might just go on ahead and play this move. And then we could look to pin their knight. It's not really a pin, I think, as We've got a rook hitting a rook. So they could move their knight and wouldn't really lose any material. But I think I still like the idea. We might look for this move first to defend the pawn over here. Because if we move here, then this move is annoying. It's probably not too bad because it might be... Yeah, we might just go ahead and play this move if that happens. Hitting the knight and this pawn at the same time. So we'll have to see. I think this move in that position would even be a trapped knight. As if they go here, we would have this doubly covered. This would be covered by our queen. This might be an escape square actually. It might not necessarily be after moving our rook, or this rook rather. I don't expect us to go down that line, so let's look at other moves instead first. Our opponent is currently trying to respond to this bishop move. They go for this. So what happens here if we capture? We might just go ahead and drop back, keeping this pin alive. The alternative would be moving down here, for example, but that's not really a very good position, I think. It doesn't beat having this pin. If we get the chance to do so, I think we might just look for this. If they move their queen, this move would be a welcome sight because their king would be weakened. Which square here is best for our queen? I think I really like this square as I've been looking at it for a couple of times. This is... I'm very glad they played this move here now because they had this fork which I didn't quite see. And this allows us to defend from that fork, while simultaneously creating weaknesses for themselves over here, which I'm happy with. I think we want to dislodge this knight as soon as possible because it's creating a lot of threats right now. Something like this, this and this maybe. Looking to just cruise on down the board here. In this position, if they played this here, would we have had a good response? I think we would have just lost material. I'm not seeing any way of generating a counter threat. Well, they go for this pawn push, which is logical because this allows us from hitting their pawn with this move, for example. So which knight jumps could they have here? This is a bit curious because if we go here, they can't jump here now. This would be a fork. They can't jump forwards in any direction. So after this move here, this move might be forced. Yeah, this move. Then our queen would be hit again. Do we have a good repositioning square for our queen then? I think just standing here might be a good idea. Defending and applying pressure. And our queen would be quite active, I think. And this also creates the threat of causing our opponent to blunder with any other move than this. We'll just have to look at this response. And after they played this move, this loses a knight, this loses a knight. Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and play this. This knight has been a bit too powerful for a bit too long, so now we will hopefully get a chance at punishing it. So after this move, do we have a better move than this? They jump in, which I think was a fork. God. For some reason I'm overlooking a lot of things recently. Well, this does at least prove their knight was indeed in a powerful position. I don't think this should be the end of the road for us, at least. We will go on ahead here and apply pressure. When they capture, we use our bishop here. And then we will go on ahead and try to play actively on the queen side. We still have our bishop here, which is powerful, and they have this awkward position here with their pawn pushed in front of their king. Let's go here as it generates a threat here and we can't easily be hit. We'll go ahead and capture here. And they are going to defend this pawn, I think. This might be their move. They might move their queen, perhaps. They go for this rook move, looking to double up. And I think in this position we should probably look to take away their squares here along this file. And that could be done by moving our bishops closer here. This pawn is at least defended now. This might be an annoying move to play against. We could get our bishop, into this position. What happens here and here? No, this is defended by our queen. So I'm liking this kind of a remaneuver. So let's go ahead and play it. Trying to be a bit more active here. If they leave the defense of their pawn here, we will just take it, I think. They might play this move, after which this might be a move, yeah, because they can't hit our bishop, because none of those squares here would be available. They move their queen. But I think this might be a mistake, because after this move I don't think they have a good response. They would just lose their rook here. And we would be back to equal material. Let's double check this so we don't blunder again. Do they have a good threat? They can't move here, 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 here. Blocking doesn't work. So they would have to go either here or here, after which we take here. So I think this is looking good for us. And now I think we need a way of accessing this file soon. We can't really move our rook here as we're not covering the c1 square. So let's have a look at this here. This is met by this. I don't think we have a good in-between move here. So I think we'll just go ahead and grab the material and not waste a lot of time. They are going to play here. What happens if we go like this? They're probably going to double up and grab the file here. So I think their position might be a bit better than ours. Mainly because of this file control. What happens here? They would double up. If we play here, we get this position. Actually, this might not be too bad. This. Sorry, we go like this, 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 this. But this is a check. And then they could capture. Which I'm not really liking. We might not need this file, however, because we might look for this kind of a move. Trying to play on the D file instead. I think I like that idea. Because if we play for a passed pawn here, I think we might be in a good spot. Now what do we do? I would like to cover this. Here I'm even liking this move now. Because if we trade, I think this would be a powerful threat. It might not be as easy actually, because in the end, after all the trades, they still have this pawn majority here on the queen side. I don't think we have this immediate move. It's looking a bit awkward because all of the lines I'm looking at seem to lead to disadvantageous positions. What about this move? We have to be careful with our time here as well. But I'm simply not finding any moves I'm liking here. So do we have any easy improving moves here? I think we might just go ahead and play this to get a move on the board. This might allow us to play something like this and locking our bishop in place. That's an unexpected move. But I think it might actually be a good move when I look at it. How about dropping back a bit here, defending our pawn and potentially threatening taking the file here? And we could look for a4 here. And then our bishop would be difficult to dislodge, it would be powerful, and they couldn't utilize this pawn majority here. The knight jumps. Do we have this move now? This seeks to play either this move or this move. I'm not seeing any good threats as a follow-up here, so we might just improve our position in the meantime and then maybe look for this. The good thing here is our bishop is covering all the jumps for the knight, so I'm not really worried. Yeah, so let's go ahead and play here. Hitting their queen and maybe looking to grab the entire file. They hit this. And I think here we might actually have to move back when I'm looking at it. Because I'm not really liking this. I think this position might actually be good when I look at it, because we might try to push our outside passed pawn. Now what? We will be looking to capture this pawn here, and then trying to push up here. They check us, and we have to make sure we go to the correct square here. What happens after this move? I think we should just be completely safe here. So let's go like this. We might not have been as safe as I thought. This is threatened. So we might have to play this move. Yeah, I think it's forced. Now they could threaten our pawn, which they don't do. So here we could look to threaten theirs instead. Now I think we have some counterplay in the position, but our king is looking a bit weak, however. We could look for this move, which would alleviate some pressure. Their knight could jump in here, but we could go here, keeping the defense of our bishop. I'm really disliking our position now. This pin here is incredibly awkward. So we probably need a way of dealing with it immediately. They go for this. We will go up here, threatening their knight. They might play this move, or probably not actually. If they go here, we just capture. Same thing if they go here, I think. They go back. And now we might have this move. And then after this, I think we have a fork. I think this might be a critical move. I don't really see us having enough time here to calculate this properly. But let's hope this works out, because it looks okay intuitively at least. Now this, as I mentioned, is probably a fork. They might have this move. Then we might have this. And if we just trade down some material, this outside passed pawn should probably become a stronger asset. I didn't quite see this move actually. Well, the move is not forced. We capture the rook. And here we are winning the game. Perfect. Now let's just try to be as clinical as possible here. And just promote our pawn. Perfect. This game got a bit too close for comfort at some point. But, well, it seemed to work out in the end at least. This got us up to 1355 ELO. And thanks a lot for the game, Mighty Curly. I see today we had a mistake and a blunder, so let's jump ahead into the game review and see what we could have done different. Today we played with an accuracy of 83.4 and our opponent had an accuracy of 78.2. The game review actually says we had 2 blunders and a miss even. So let's go through this and look at our mistakes. We had a pretty normal opening here, and this was a big advantage for us. This move was apparently a bit better here. The bishop move up here. I don't really see why. It's probably a deep theoretical move, because it doesn't seem to have an immediate reasoning behind it. Right here, this move wasn't all that good. We should have moved our bishop up here now. Just developing. But in this position, we had our decent advantage back. This was good for us. Here we should have apparently played this move. the difference is not super big. It's not all that massive, but I'm curious as to why. I guess it's because this move we did indeed play takes away this potential powerful diagonal, and our queen move here would have helped us connect our rooks probably. Well, we played a bit more moves here, and now a4 would have been a good move apparently. We got into this position instead, and this was a mistake. An inaccuracy rather. Yeah, because this is where we got ourselves into trouble. Here our opponent had this fork. Luckily they didn't find it. This was apparently yet another blunder. Yeah, because they had this. Yeah, this is where we lost our material this game. But we quickly got it back. This was the best move, which I'm really happy we did find. And here, this apparently worked. I was a bit worried about this. But what happens here? EX. This is apparently fine, yeah. Okay. I guess we misevaluated that position a bit. Here a4 was best, getting our bishop into a powerful position. This was a mistake, because we misevaluated this continuation. We should have kept our pawn here, because here, yeah, they had this immediate threat. It's essentially the same thing that happened, because we pin ourselves and they could look like this. Luckily, they didn't play the critical move here. And we got into this position. Here we should have captured, apparently. We went like this. And I see. This makes a lot of sense, because they wouldn't have had this move, so they would have lost a piece. This, however, loses the game immediately, and we went on ahead to win. Well, that's our game for today, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.